It's The Lion King. Like, it's basically the same damn movie. There's one sort of newish character, a handful of new dialogue beats, and obviously a different style of filmmaking, but basically, it's the same story and characters playing out the same way. So, did you like The Lion King the last time you saw The Lion King? Well, your answer to that, plus or minus however you feel about the prospect of watching The Lion King again in a different style, and I guess maybe whatever bigger feelings you may have about the animated or not, remake or not issues, that's how you're gonna feel about The Lion King. So, okay, does that about cover it? I mean, because I feel like we've all seen the fucking Lion King and thus probably know whether or not you're going to like or dislike the Lion King again, but in 3D and with different dish voices, so don't, get too pissed off when the rest of this is all about technical and aesthetic stuff, alright? Because that's kind of what it is. So the original Lion King is a straight-up classic of 2D animation that represented the so-called Disney Renaissance era, sitting comfortably at the absolute height of its creative and technical power. This new Lion King is a pretty good 3D blurred line between photorealistic and something they want to say is more feature that on a narrative level feels every bit its age in terms of being a beat-for-beat recreation of a tightly plotted 2D feature from 1994, but on a technical level feels nothing short of miraculous. That rare breed of studio film that, at least on the production end, feels like the original Jurassic Park, where even though you're aware you're seeing something that's had the benefit of millions of dollars in studio post-production polish, nonetheless you can't escape the sense that the filmmakers are playing with powers that they've only begun to realize the true potential of. Created using what's being called a virtual soundstage and all manner of new specialized capture, VR, animation, and digital cinematography techniques, the film's computer-rendered visuals are some of the most impressive I've ever seen, made all the more so by how non-awe-inspiring so much of it actually endeavors to be. When Jon Favreau, the director and legendary cinematographer of both digital and analog eras, Caleb Deschanel, said they wanted to aim for photorealistic style, it was widely assumed they mainly meant the look of the animal characters, eschewing the semi-human exaggerated movements granted to some in Favreau's own Jungle Book remake, or the performance-captured human-like faces of Andy Serkis' bizarre Netflix take on the same material, if you saw that thing, and I'm sorry if you did, in favor of animals that looked and moved indistinguishable from the real thing, save for subtle motions to the eyes and lips to sync with the actor voiceovers. And indeed, the creature animation here is near flawless, all but free of the weightlessness and over-animation that plagues so many attempts at realistic animals. They really are stunning, and so too is the world around them. It feels weighty and solid, but the real achievement, making The Lion King actually fairly compelling as a technical achievement, when as a work of storytelling it's quite literally a study in competently going through the motions, is a commitment to carrying the photoreal aesthetic to the absolute extreme, seemingly to prove that it can be done, i.e. we can make it look like we really went out to West Africa with a bunch of lion actors who could talk for some reason. You see, whereas the animated version back in the day made extensive use of mood lighting, narrative shift palettes, color grading, and changes to the different levels of abstraction in its animated style, especially during the song numbers, to convey different themes and beats, the remake essentially tries to look like a nature documentary set to dramatic music all the way through, where the subjects can all speak for themselves, being the only break from reality. The lighting is stark, the palette earthy and naturalistic, the camera generally stays at eye level with the main animals in the shot and frequently drops into convincing handheld flourishes, and the bits of magic realism, like Rafiki's applied supernatural powers and Mufasa appearing in the clouds, are played with trick-of-the-eye subtlety that could be said to barely even be there. It's a really fascinating aesthetic choice, one that must have been very difficult to pull off and must have made executives somewhat nervous at the planning stages. As is, I'm more impressed by the fact of it than I am convinced that it actually works given the material. For one thing, the song numbers play particularly on the tonally odd side now that they mainly consist of just regular animals moving through various backgrounds with no 90s VH1 light rock R&B visual flourish to complement all of those lilting Elton John song lyrics. And by the same token, as impressive as the commitment to not over-anthropomorphizing the animals is, it's occasionally a minor stumbling block that not all of these creatures, Pumbaa the warthog for example, have what map to expressive facial features by human standards. You're pretty much relying entirely on the voices to convey what the emotions are this time around. Ironically, among the animated peers, what it most reminded me of was Loving Vincent, the independently produced oil-painted 2D feature from a year or two back, inasmuch as that film also ran into moments where its remarkable production style was perhaps not the ideal way to carry off the story it was telling, but it's still impressive that they did it at all. My overwhelming takeaway was that while The Lion King is a pretty good movie realized through amazing production, these techniques, when later applied to an original story at some point, are fully capable of delivering something truly game-changing down the road, so you have to start somewhere. Would they have been better off making bigger changes to this story? It's difficult to say, as is the only significant plot movement is bumping up the female hyena Shenzi to being the actual alpha of her pack, with Scar as an outside agitator offering to trade allegiances, a move that rather clearly only seems to exist because you're not going to cast Beyoncé to play Nala and not give her a villain of her own to kick around during the finale, which works out decently enough given the rest of the narrative. In the end, viewed as an experiment that's also a film, The Lion King is more interesting than it is good, but it's also still pretty good. 6 out of 10. As I said up front, it's The Lion King.